Hello, Ross Jordan again, Incoring International. We're moving through the Level 1 CMMC compliance for self-certification. We are now in Section 9, which is personal security. Interestingly enough, there are only 2 requirements in this section, so you would think it'd be easy and quick, but this one's pretty important. And I'm going to explain at the end of this video a scenario that I'd been advised of that you probably should take into consideration when you're looking into personal security. So let's start with the 3 questions, right? What's this mean in plain English? This is literally protecting your people. That's it. It is physically protecting your people from being victims. What's this mean for your company? You already probably have something in place. People have access to certain areas. They don't have access to others. You don't just let strangers walk in the front door or walk into the machine shop. So there's probably some of this in place for your company already. But this is taking it to the next level. Think of this as background checks. That's also personal security as well. And then the questions for your IT team. On this segment, we're actually going to have as many questions for your HR department as we are your IT team. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the background checks first. Truthfully, this is one of the areas that matters the most when it comes to the CMMC audit. Are you doing background checks on your employees? If you are, to what extent? Are you doing FBI background checks? Are you doing criminal background checks? Do the background checks deviate based on the person's role, right? Does a machinist maybe have a certain level of background check required versus a finance person or an office person have a different one? These background checks, define why you picked them. Are you looking at only criminal history? Are you looking at fraudulent history? Are you looking at any investigative relationships they've had maybe with law enforcement or with any other form or fashion where they've been engaged in a legal environment that has caused concern or would be a cause of concern? Think of this from your customer's perspective. If you are a sub of the contractor, right, so that would be a sub of a sub, and they come and ask you, hey, we heard that, employee ABC was involved in a fraud case 5 years ago. Did you look into that? You better be able to answer that question. Their contract's on the line for that. So make sure that you understand that. Make sure that you have, again, with your HR department, a very thorough background check done for all individuals, one associated with any CMMC project, but also to anybody that could be near it. So it's not just the person touching the data, it's going to be anybody around that person as well. If it's a federal contract, make sure that you discuss with them what the requirements are. Make sure that you have those minimums met. If you're working with a subcontractor, again, same thing. Get it in writing too. This is one of those places where having it in writing will be very beneficial for you if there's ever a cause. Screening should reflect the level of security required to meet the contract needs. So don't just say, yeah, we do background checks. Well, this person works with a militarized product, so we've done a more thorough background check through the FBI with them. And here's the date that it was done. This also, too, would be a good time to consider re-upping these. Are these done every year? Are these done every 3 years? Are they done every 5 years? Are they only done when somebody advances into a different role or changes position? Those are things you need to look at. Confidentiality agreements. This is personal security as well. Think about what they're bringing into your organization. Also think about what they leave with in your organization. So let's move on to the questions here for your team. Now, again, this is as much for HR as it is for IT, but really the biggest question is, do we have background checks? What are the policies around those, and what would require us to change those? Are we meeting the minimum standards of our contract? And then the better question is, are there things we could be doing better to make sure we're more capable of managing confidential information from our federal agencies? Are there things that our competition are doing that we should maybe consider? What gives us the best set of employees that anybody could get? Those are questions you should probably consider. Are those background checks defined by role? Were people brought into the organization, maybe in senior leadership, that didn't have those? Should we do those? Should we go ahead? Because most likely those will have access to confidential information. If someone's promoted, what are the policies on that? If somebody is moved into or out of a protected area of this company, what changes or what background checks are done? And then also make sure that the termination policies are there as to what the personnel has to do to exit the company, what information they have to turn back over, what data has to be returned or shown, things like that. For now, the IT department, those questions would be more like data management policies. What are we doing? How do we move this around? Are they aware of those that do and do not have security clearance or background checks, so that they know, most likely they're the ones elevating permissions, that they know, oh, I'm not allowed to give it to you. Let me check with somebody that's in senior management. So they need some policies and direction on this as well. Make sure that you have a hardware return policy. Make sure you know what was checked out, what was turned in, not just for the confidential information, but also personal information on your employees. Cell phone policy, bring your own device policy. Those are very important as well. If you're providing company equipment, make sure that they can't transfer information out of it. Personal security, so we've gone back already, you can see how fast, to data management. I want you to think of this scenario. This was shared with me in private, so I won't share the company's name, but they were a subcontractor of a prime contractor. And obviously a prime contractor is going to have much higher level of credibility requirements. CMMC now requirements would be probably a level 2, part 2, but because the agencies wanted to get data out of that but couldn't because they did have it locked down really well, they went to a subcontractor of that, found somebody who had something to lose, and used that individual to access the information they needed for the prime. So think of this too when it comes to personal security. I want you to think about, again, we go back to the weakest link. The weakest link, who is the person or who is the team member, or what is the area of product you're working on that would be at risk for your prime contractor or your government contractor. I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about how could somebody get to them. When we talk about a background check, you don't typically look at the personal side of things, but this was a scenario where somebody was having challenges in their marriage, and there was some very unsavory things found on this individual, and they used that to leverage their way into this individual's work account and got access to information that they needed to basically compete against a prime that was wanting it. It was found because that employee came to his senior management and said, hey, this is going on. I know this isn't right. Something doesn't feel good here. So it was found, and there were criminal actions taken against the individuals pursuing this effort. But had that person not come forward and had to admit something very uncomfortable and unsavory for them, that probably would have never been known. So I want you to look at, how do you protect your employees? Do they have a resource, whether that's through human resources or through their supervisor, where they can talk about things that are very important to them that cannot be shared? They need to have a safe place to go tell somebody, hey, I'm being basically blackmailed into getting access to one of our customers. So please make sure when you're looking at personal security that you're looking at that as well. So one of our longest videos on one of our shortest topics, but it's very important you understand everything you need to understand about what personal security means.